where they just do Christmas year round. She knocked somebody into the river and it was a whole thing. A little unnecessary in some places. Hi, I'm Sock Marionette, a middle-aged lady in a tiara talking about books, and this is Bargain Counter Argument After Hours. These are the videos where I talk about books that are on the dark side, the kinky side, the spicy side. The language is tasteful even when the books are not, and it's time to kick off our shoes. And today I'm going to talk about a couple of spicy holiday reads. Okay, this is where I get sick of doing the voice. I read How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Meghan Quinn, came out in 2024, and Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal, also by Meghan Quinn, came out in 2025. It was released in mid-October, which, as I'm recording this on Christmas Eve 2025, was just a few weeks ago. I read this one as a buddy read, and my friend decided she would hold off on reading this one until next year. I pressed ahead, and I'm glad I did. Now, these books are both, as you might guess, not so much based on as loosely inspired by How the Grinch Stole Christmas and Home Alone. This is very much loosely inspired by rather than based on. Now, I have to say, I am pretty familiar with How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I've never seen Home Alone. I know the basic premise. I know the quote. I know the pose of Kevin going. But I've never actually seen it. Clips, obviously, but I've never seen it all the way through. I enjoyed this book very much. It is about both books actually are about a town called Kringle, a fictitious town in the Rockies in Colorado, where they just do Christmas year round. I mean, especially at Christmas, but they have like Christmas shops that are open, and their mayor will frequently dress in a Santa suit and insist everybody call him Santa and that kind of thing. I mean, he's a good guy. His name is Bob Krampus and his son is BKJ for Bob Krampus Jr., who is expected to be the mayor one day. But, you know, they're good guys. They just happen to have an unfortunate surname. So in this one story, the female main character and her sister Taryn come to Kringle. Their aunt lives there, Cindy Lou. Their aunt, she's their great aunt, actually. She's in her 80s. She broke her hip and she needs them to come help take care of her. She also needs them to enter the Kringle competition, which she came in second the previous year. This is a townwide competition. It's been going on for about 5 years, and there's like a whole lot of drama and competition involved, and it's a lot of fun, except for some people it's very, very serious. And Aunt Cindy came in second the year before. She wants her, or at least someone in her family, to come in first this year, so she enlists Story's help. And at the same time, there's a man, what was his name again? Cole, C-O-L-E, Cole, and he and Story, the female main character, they knew each other when they were in high school. She did not actually attend high school in Kringle. She would come to visit, but she didn't live there. And they became friends because he lived next door to Aunt Cindy, and they had like Story, when she was 18, she was doing something in a public situation, and she was trying to dance or something, and she fell over. She knocked somebody into the river, and it was a whole thing, and she was seriously humiliated, and she hasn't been back to Kringle in the intervening 10 years until now, when Aunt Cindy really needs her, and Aunt Cindy really needs her to enter the competition and win it for the family. The same night that he spoke to Story the last time, when she was so embarrassed and humiliated, and she's like, I'm leaving this stupid town, I'm never coming back, his parents were killed in a car crash. So he has a lot of negative feelings bound up with that. And he had been in college at the time, and he dropped out of college and ended up getting a job on his neighbor and best friend Max's farm. Well, Max is his age. It's the family Christmas tree farm, and they have reindeer and so on. So he takes care of the reindeer, and he's kind of been isolating himself for 10 years. I mean, he's gone on dates and he's made friends, sort of, but he hasn't been involved in the Kringle competition. And when he sees Story is coming in out of nowhere to be in this thing, he's like, no, I don't think so. So he enters it, and rivalry, hijinks, slapstick ensues. And different chapters are prefaced by little poems in the style of Dr. Seuss. And occasionally Cole actually talks back to the narrator, so it gets a little meta. Those bits were kind of hit or miss for me. I overall enjoyed the story. One thing about the story is it is spicy, mostly in the back half. And I think I have talked to a couple of people who were like, oh, the second half of the book was nothing but spice. It didn't need to be almost 500 pages long. It was all spice. And I didn't really feel like it was all spice. I felt like there was more spice than there needed to be. And the reason I feel that way isn't because I'm anti-spice. I like spice. And the spice wasn't poorly written or anything, but it didn't feel like it really needed to be there. The spice didn't do anything to advance my understanding of the characters or of their narrative arc or their emotional arc. It was just kind of there. And so I didn't mind it, but they were the spice scenes were very skippable. And if it's skippable, then why is it in there except for providing spice? And I just felt like it wasn't quite spicy enough to justify its own existence in the story. Like if it had been super spicy and that had been the whole point, that would have been one thing. As it is, it's just kind of there. Nevertheless, I very much enjoyed this book. I'm not sorry I read it, and I have read other things by her in the past, and I will again. In fact, I put that down and picked up Merry Christmas, You Filthy Animal. Now, in this one, Cole's best friend Max of the Christmas Tree Farm gets together with Betty. Well, he meets Betty, and Betty is in town because her uncle, she had a business that failed. It was a Christmas year-round store that failed. It was in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is a real place. And her uncle, who lives in Kringle and isn't very popular in town, has a rivalry with Max. He invites her into town, and he has some undeveloped property just outside town, and he wants to open up a Christmas tree farm that will kind of maybe drive Max and his family out of business. So she's balancing her obligations to her uncle. Her uncle's only a few years older than she is, but they're more like siblings, but she feels like she has an obligation to him. And so she wants to help him, but as she gets to know Max, she starts to fall for him. I liked this one better. I like the other one fine. I like this one better. To me, it was just funnier. The framing device is a voiceover narrator, which I believe is like in Home Alone. Like I said, I've never seen it. And I think the bits where Max talks back to the narrator, again, it's not a major element of this book. They just landed a little bit better for me in this book than they did in this one. I will say if you suffer from social anxiety disorder or secondhand embarrassment, both Betty and Max are very cringy, and they know this. They're super awkward, and they keep getting into these really strange conversations with each other and with other people because they feel so socially awkward. And everybody's watching them and going, oh my goodness, were they separated at birth? Are they the same person? When they're watching these train wreck interactions. So if you do suffer from secondhand embarrassment or you don't like cringe humor, that might be an issue. I'm not super fond of it myself, but I did enjoy it in this story. I felt like there was enough of an emotional context. Both of these stories are alternating POV, first person. So I felt I had the insight into their characters' thoughts and emotions that made it a little less cringy than it could have been. Also in this one, it's the same, where the spice starts up in the second half and there's a fair amount of it and some of it is skippable. However, I will say the first scene where they get together physically is absolutely hilarious. It was very much, I laughed out loud. I really enjoyed that, and I felt like that advanced the emotional arc, and it made me feel like I understood the characters better. So that was very, very worth it. And if some of the later spice scenes were more skippable, well, that's the price of doing business when you're reading a Meghan Quinn book, isn't it? So yeah, I did enjoy these. Again, if you don't like spice, then you could skip those scenes. These books probably didn't need to be as long as they are, but I enjoyed them. And even if I found the spice kind of a little unnecessary in some places. So that's just one reader's opinion of these two books. Thank you for your attention. If you enjoyed what you saw here, please like, comment, share, subscribe, or don't. I am not the boss of you. And I hope you have a good night or day.